We've had quite a bit of the tournament, and there are still two teams standing who are yet to lose a game, and both of them going head-to-head at Trent Bridge, Nottingham, India and New Zealand. Welcome to My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live, and that's the game we are focusing on. India against New Zealand. It's one we've built up to a lot, but of course there's a third team, as has been the case in the last 4 or 5 days. A third team playing in this World Cup, and that's the team that comes from those dark grey clouds in the skies. So it's India in blue, New Zealand in black, and the clouds in black that are going to play, or in grey rather, that are going to play a part today. We hope it's more grey than black and tending towards white. Joy Bhattacharjya, Robin Uthappa in the studio. We're all trying to tend a little towards blue, but I'm a little worried about Joy's grey outfit.
I think he's going with the color of the clouds today.
Yeah, I'm going with the color of the clouds. Certainly not the color of the team.
So maybe you should be the one telling us exactly what the latest weather update is.
I think for 3,000 years, many people have tried to tell people about what the weather in England is. Nobody has a clue. But as I said, once again, I'm gobsmacked that a tournament of this length does not have enough, situations where you can do something about things like this, reserve days. The other thing, and it's a very interesting point that somebody raised, which is that if you know there's going to be a lot of rain later,
can you not shorten the game to start with?
Can you not shorten the game to start with and say that at least there's a chance of getting 220 over, 40 overs in, but there's no chance of getting 100 overs in. So, from the beginning only you adjust to that. And I think it's a very eminently sensible suggestion, because I'd rather prefer you go wrong on that than not have play, because I think that's disastrous for both sides.
Would you endorse that, Robin?
Well, I don't know.
I know it's not possible in the scenario that as we stand today, but as cricket moves forward, if you have situations like this, both teams agree 35 overs aside, 30 overs aside.
Yeah, that I think is a fair deal. I think you can go with that, because I think in a situation like this, in a tournament like this, guys want to play matches, right? In a World Cup, you don't want to sit out and have games that are being washed out. It's just not sensible. So I definitely think that 35 over games, if both captains agree, they can come to an understanding as to how many overs can be played. If the umpires give them an idea, okay, 4 hours of play is possible or 3 hours of play is possible, and how much can you get in that much time? And then you depend. And I think a minimum should be a 20 over game or a 25 over game. Anything above that is a luxury.
But even though we've put Joy as the weatherman for today with his very dapper grey colours, we've still tried to put our own little perspective on the weather based on all the weather websites and everyone who's an expert in it. And this is where it stands as of now. Chances of rain are pretty healthy in the morning, 57%. I'm not a fan of the percentages. But what it does say is, post 3 o'clock, to put it in English, the chances of rain are reducing. Hence, you're expecting brighter weather. So you could perhaps have a delayed start, then a stop, and then a start again. So whether or not it's the rain that plays a part, one thing's for sure, those 3 professors by the name of Duckworth, Lewis and Stern will definitely play a big part today.
Yeah, absolutely. That 57, 25 reminded me of my Hindi marks over many years in school. 25%. That was about when I was hitting my spot. 57 is actually very high. But no, that's exactly my point. And I think, you see, the situation out here is, traditionally, this happens in Test cricket even nowadays. A match referee comes in to, as recently as 4-5 years back, captains have decided to forfeit an innings to make sure that there is a result in the game. Yeah. Things like this have happened even recently. That I understand the complication happens because you actually it's a multilateral series. That means there are more teams involved. So the guys saying, guys, to get a result, you guys can't get together. But I exactly agree with him that if you have a match referee, you can say, gentlemen, 45 overs of play is possible. Can we do this? Can we get together? The 2 captains agree. And if they sign off on it, I think it should be done, because you're going to have more situations like that where definitely that 50 or 100 overs is not happening, maybe 50, maybe 40. You've got to get it done.
Yeah, and also it actually, because it's happening in tournaments like this, like this one, the tournament for international teams, I think gives ICC also food for thought now, right? As in a situation like this, actually gives ICC food for thought as to, okay, this is a situation we're encountering in this tournament, the premier one-day tournament in the world. So how do we address this? So I think that would be a great solution if 2 teams can come together with the match referee and say, if the match referee says, guys, according to the weather, this much of play is possible, these many hours of play is possible. We believe that 45 to 50 overs, or we won't get 100 overs, but we might get 75 or 50 or 40. If it goes below 40, I don't think they should play, because a one-day game is a one-day game. It shouldn't be a T20 game. at the most. So if it goes below 40, then it shouldn't be less than a T20 game, in my opinion. So I think if they can bring it up to a T20 game, then it's fine. Below that, they might as well just call it off, because in a tournament like this, there's a lot at stake, so.
Fair enough, you can't. Obviously, that is the bare minimum anyway that we're talking about. But just to finish off on this discussion, the other day, I know, Joy, you were very vocal about the possibility of having a reserve day. The ICC has come back pretty logically and said that, listen, it does affect in terms of the logistics, the people, the broadcasters, everyone, it does affect them. But is there a possibility of yet another solution, which is to try and reschedule games like you have in, say, a Premier League, where you have a game where, say, one team's clashing with a different tournament like the FA Cup. So you say that these two teams will play 10 days later at this particular venue where you know the weather is going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I want to just...
But wouldn't that be like a logistical nightmare?
No, it's actually rescheduling is easier, because see, the big problem is not the team travel.
Just to throw one more spanner in there, if you were talking about a reserve day, they made a good point. It could rain on the reserve day as well. So what you do is you look at the radar and say, listen, these two teams, you're going to play at Taunton in 10 days' time, because you're anyway going to play, one of the two teams is already in Taunton for that time. So I'm just saying, I'm throwing out...
See, I'll tell you, the big movement issues, in terms of sheer logistic movement, the big movement issues are basically crew and equipment. Those are the big things. Okay?
That's my...
But what happens in a lot of these cases is, if they have OBs, in England is not a very big place, you have your OB places set up already. So all basically the trucks have to do is they drive in there and they can literally just connect up, and it's not that difficult nowadays anymore. So if your big thing is that, then you can reschedule teams. Rescheduling a team and telling a team that, boss, instead of going to Taunton, you're going to go to Bristol, that's not that big a deal. And that's, I think the issue there is, then you say that, what about the schedule for television broadcasters? I think the television broadcasters would be happy to see 9 India matches definitely happening, then a fixed schedule of matches and only 7 India matches happening.
Fair enough.
So I think that's the way I'd look at it. Look, that's my point. My point is, suppose you were to go and tell somebody that, this is the Olympic Games. You play Olympic Games once every 4 years. And you say that, sorry boss, this 100 meters, it's in rain, so semi-finals with the 100 meters have been called off. This semi-finals you called off. So you guys in this heat, I'm sorry, you can't make it to the finals. Would it have been acceptable? And my belief is, no. This is not any tournament. This is the pinnacle of 50 over cricket. It happens once every 4 years. It's not an everyday tournament that gets washed out like every tournament in Sri Lanka used to be for a while. You keep getting washed out. This is the World Cup. Yeah.
I can tell you, as a trivia buff, Joy would appreciate this one. They're so flexible sometimes in the Olympics. They had a situation in Melbourne in 56, I think, where the laws, the equine laws in the country were so strict, you couldn't have horses coming in. So they held the equestrian events in Sweden.
Oh, really?
For the Melbourne Olympics in 56,
it was in Sweden.
One event was held in Sweden.
Because the quarantine laws didn't allow them to come in. So they played in Sweden, yeah.
Oh man, that's nice. Yeah.
So talk about flexibility. I'm sure you wouldn't go so far as saying that, where in the world is the weather good? Let's go to Ibiza or something and play the next game. Not that far, but I'm sure you could be flexible. Now, we've got a man who's been around the rain, he's been braving it, and we, of course, will have a little discussion as to which of the two teams will be happier, assuming that they have to share a point. We threw that question center stage to Harsha.
It doesn't matter what the weather conditions are. New Zealand have got 6 points. They're happy. This was a game they probably would have thought, I don't know which way it's going. If it has to be 1-1, then I think New Zealand would be happier getting the 1 point, because India get 3 wins on the trot going into Pakistan. 3 wins. I said 3 out of 4 is good enough in the first phase. But yes, I think India would have been banking on 2 points here. So if anybody has to feel disappointed, well, both teams will be. But I think New Zealand would take the 1 point more happily than India would.
Never mind the opinion he had there. It's his attire that I think we're absolutely loving. It tells the story, doesn't it?
I love to see Harsha in a cap. Yeah, I've never seen him before in a cap. It's quite nice.
Yeah, I'm deeply disappointed though that if he had to choose a cap, he could have chosen the traditional Bengali monkey cap. That's the kind of thing to keep your ears warm for weather like this. But Harsha really looked miserable out there.
I know. I mean, you could tell, because that's the one thing we haven't talked about, Robin. Yes, there's been a lot of rain around, and of course, when you have in India and Mumbai and places like that, rain's actually a relief from the heat.
That's
and you're
right,
saying, bring it on.
Yep.
But over there, rain is accompanied by about 5 to 6 degrees fall in temperature.
Yeah. and it's cold as it is in England, and with the rains it gets really cold. So these hand warmers play such a huge part in playing cricket in England, and everyone, literally everyone, especially the guys who are playing are better off than the guys who are not playing the game. Because when you're sitting inside and you have nothing to do, and you can feel the breeze coming and hitting you, right? And it's very, very cold.
Yeah,
Better to be on the field.
19 and 11 is the general breakup of the temperatures in Nottingham at this time of year. It's expected to be about 12 and 7 today is what we are reckoning. But just to carry on from this topic, Harsha feels that it's New Zealand who will take that 1 point more gleefully than India. Joy?
I tend to agree, definitely agree. Though you have to say the conditions would suit, they'd think of it, oh, it is a perfect day for Christchurch, and that's the way they'd look at it. But the fact of the matter is, that is a fact. But New Zealand traditionally have been small team bullies over the last 4 years. They've been clinical in their execution against the smaller teams. Against the larger team, they have struggled. And I think that's the thing that India has. I mean, nobody in India is really going to enjoy these batting conditions, but we are far more used to it than we ever were.
There's your numbers to support
that.
that.
36% against the top 4 teams, and then against the rest, look at it, it's 81%. They've been clinical against it, and that's what they've done. They've banked 3 wins away. Here, they're 3 wins, they're done. And they're going to say, if we get one more against India, it's a team we didn't expect to beat. And that's important for them because they're 3.5, 2 more wins and they're through. And that's how they look at this tournament right now.
And just to clarify, those were done basically on rankings. I'm not responsible for Bangladesh not being put in that first group, but we had to just go by rankings and separate the teams as it were. So this is just to confirm New Zealand unbeaten, India unbeaten, but at 4th place because of 1 less game played. So if it were 1 point each, New Zealand would get to 7, India get to 5, going ahead to that big clash against Pakistan in Manchester. So we've got Harsha's opinion, Joy's opinion. Robin, where do you sit on this particular issue?
For me, I think I'm of the belief that New Zealand would want to play this game because they're coming off 3 wins, right? And they've got a lot of confidence going, and they're on a high. They're riding a wave right now. So they would like to play India while they're riding that wave, than to have played India when they're not riding such a wave. So in my view, I think they'd want to play this game because a win against India would send a message to the whole contingent there, right? Who are playing matches in the World Cup. So I think they would want to play this match and see if they can get a win. They will go with the belief that they can beat India because even in the practice game they did beat India, and in these kind of conditions they've troubled India in the past and New Zealand as well. So I think they would want to play this game, and they will be of the conviction that hey, if you get a win against India, we're contenders. Not just semi-final contenders.
And you're talking about both the fact that it's momentum and conditions.
Yes, absolutely.
Because on a bright sunny day, maybe you would.
Yeah, they know that the Indian batting lineup's the best in the world. You get rid of one guy. I'm like, man, this guy's coming in. You get rid of him, and then there's another guy coming in. So you really have to have an exceptional day for you to feel like, okay, we've got this under control. But that's not the case here against India, right? So under these conditions, I think they'd fancy a chance for themselves. So I think they'd want to play.
I can tell you what, all of you can also fancy your chances because a delayed start means that you have that much more time to get in your My 11 Circle teams. Isn't that wonderful? In case you've been trying to put it in, trying to figure out what to do, no Shikhar Dhawan in the Indian team, get to the website, select a match, create your own team. The match, of course, is India versus New Zealand from Trent Bridge. And Dada doesn't wait till the end. He's been up early in the morning, if you can believe that. And look at Joy. Okay, relatively early in the morning, and he's picked his team. So all of you, Dada Ka Vada stands that whatever team he's picked, if you can beat them, it's 5 times the amount of cash. So, well, I just sneakily mentioned Shikhar Dhawan in there, so he's not going to be a pick for that. But obviously that means that the whole talk is going to be around KL Rahul now popping in there and how much India will miss Shikhar Dhawan.
Of course, India will miss Shikhar a lot. And I think, just his form in these tournaments have been so good that, they would have really wanted him to be there. Unfortunately, the fact that he's missing out gives KL an opportunity at the top of the order, which is his original position. And I think that he'd be happy to fill that role. And as I can tell you as an opening batsman that when you get an opportunity to open the batting for your country, oh man, you grab it with both hands.
But also, Robin, as an opener, he talks about it. He's talked so much about chemistry of players up the order. Now, no matter how good KL Rahul might be, how explosive he might be, that chemistry between Rohit and Shikhar has just been settling in.
No, absolutely, and they. I mean, I'm telling you. I mean, you have 3, 4, 5 pairs like that. You know, you had Boone and Marsh, you had Greenwich and Haynes, you had Shoaib and Sachin, for the longest time. Then Sachin and Sehwag for a while. But these two are there among the greats. And if you see the figures, they compare favorably. I think the number of centuries
second best opening pair for the country. Yeah.
So I mean, internationally also, I think they've crossed Greenwich and Haynes right now. Yeah. So they're really, really good. And the great thing about it is, more often than not, you'll see Rohit taking his time and not taking chances, and Shikhar playing his natural game, which always gives Rohit that little bit more time to settle in and then start accelerating. Now that is going to be a bit of an issue, because if Rahul doesn't get going, of course Rahul is an attacking batsman himself, then that extra bit of pressure on Rohit, which, I mean, Rohit likes to sort of settle in the way, he has his own way of doing it, and he'll always catch up with the run rate. But if somebody else, if you're going at 3 and over and 4 and over, then he might think, okay, I need to force things a bit. And those are things that, good chemistry between partners can sort that out. And I'm not saying there's bad chemistry between Rahul and Rohit. It's just unproven chemistry right now.
Have you had a situation where you've, whether you're happy with your own form or not, you just see the person at the other end and just feel I haven't batted enough with that person, and hence it's affected your own game?
No, not really. No, absolutely not. I don't think that even occurs to anyone. I think when you go in as an opening batsman, you just go in and say, okay, I have a role to fulfill and I need to fulfill that role. And if he knows, he's got information that this is how Rohit plays, so his role is even more well defined, right? So KL knows that he has to go in there and he has to be the aggressor of the two
Absolutely,
of them. Yes. So there's clarity there. It's not like, there's no ambiguity about how he has to go about his innings. He knows that, he has to, if he has to make it ideal for Rohit, which would be extremely important for India, then he would have to play the aggressor's role. So he give himself a little time to get in, and then he probably start playing the way Shikhar plays. And if that comes off for India, brilliant. And then that sorts out he's a third opener essentially, so there's no issues there. And then for me, bring MS Dhoni at number 4. Sorted. India is sorted.
Okay. We'll come to that. That's another talking point, as it always has been from well before this particular event began. But let's go centre stage and see what Harsha has to think. All wrapped up he was, talking about the weather, about whether this absence of Shikhar will cause a bit of disarray in the Indian camp.
No. Well, first of all, welcome to the Winter Olympics. It's a summer World Cup, or meant to be. No, I don't think it'll affect them too much, because in their minds they've got to be prepared for any eventuality. They'll be thinking, yes, Shikhar Dhawan had just come back to form. He got 100. He's very good in these tournaments. But there's a reason that India have picked a very good number 4 who's also an opener. So Rahul will slot back as an opener. It may be a little uncomfortable for him to do so. But in a long tournament like this, when you have only 15 players, then a team is inherently ready for any eventuality. So they have to be ready for it. That's the way it goes.
Team India ready for any eventuality. Harsha Bhogle ready for all eventualities. I can tell you that he backed all that before he went. He kept checking the weather, as we keep checking every time, and he said whether it's rain or not, it's going to be a bit chilly. So that he packed with him. But he did bring up one interesting point, and that's that eternal number 4 debate, which is now reignited because of the fact that KL Rahul, who we had settled in at 4, has now been pushed to number 2. So hence we have 3 contenders for that number 4 spot. We have Vijay Shankar. We, of course, have Dinesh Karthik, and we have, thanks to Robin Uthappa being there, MS Dhoni as someone he's very keen to see up there.
I'm so happy that Robin had to drop in a third name. Now all you have to do is have India batting at, say, 180 for 2 in 31 overs. At that point, they'll say maybe Hardik Pandya is the guy they should now get in at number 4.
Yes.
But no, absolutely. I think it's a very fair question, because Rahul had stopped that debate. He'd done his job, whatever was needed to be done by him. And now you're back to that, and it's between, as he said, either moving, but Dinesh Karthik to 5, which is what you're looking at, moving Karthik to a 5, moving Dhoni into a 4, or getting Vijay Shankar into the game. Look, going by what they did in the nets, from whatever the kind of language the team is speaking, it seems very clear that Vijay Shankar seems to be the favoured person at this point in time. What has prompted that is difficult to say. I can't see them wanting him as a 6th bowler, or maybe that would be the reason that he can seem it a bit. But is that a good enough reason to replace the specialist batsman? That's something you need to see.
Now, here's one thing to look at. This is Vijay Shankar in ODIs, but one thing to remember, none of these 5 were at number 4.
They're all at number 5.
They're all at number 5 or 6.
Yeah.
5 or below. So while he has had that experience, he's had some decent amount of scores. The venues were very different. They were India or New Zealand. But the fact is here, it's a big World Cup. It's a new tournament and he's never batted at number 4. So while the news from the camp is that it's possibly going to be him, could this be a factor that works against him?
See, as far as I'm concerned, I think the number 4 position is not a discussion for me. I think MS at number 4 would be ideal for India. And I think to find a replacement for Shikhar, you have to go with a specialist batsman, because he's a specialist batsman and you already have 5 bowlers. You have a 6th in Kedar Jadhav, so you don't need another bowler. I think what you need is a specialist batsman. For me, number 4, MS Dhoni. Number 5 would be Dinesh Karthik, because that's his ideal position. That's where he bats all the time. That's like home for him. So I think him at number 5 would be ideal. So in case India is in any kind of trouble, then he can play his role there, and he's also played the role of being the best finisher in the country for the last couple of years. So if you need him to finish with Hardik Pandya and Kedar Jadhav, he'll get that job done as well.
What has Dinesh Karthik done at number 4 for India? We thought we'd pull out those numbers and try and assess them. This has been there. It's not, not numbers that would blow you away, but nonetheless, he has played 18 innings at number 4 for India and ODI.
It would be interesting to see how, as in the last last
This
year
is very biased.
This is like Dinesh has played cricket from 2005 or 6, right? So it would be unfair to pull out those numbers now. As in, if you see over the last year and a half or so, then it would give you an actual idea of what he's actually done at number 4. That doesn't do justice to Dinesh.
And most of those are early, because when he came back, he was batting more at 6. 6 was his favorite position.
Only time, the exception in recent times was the Asia Cup.
Where he batted at number 4. I didn't think he batted more than 3 or 4 games there at number 4 as well.
No. So again, then that's another factor to take into account. So so I guess, I really feel that it sounds settled when Robin Uthappa mentions MS Dhoni at number 4, and then you've got that specialist. And if they're looking at Vijay Shankar purely as a batsman, that's one thing. But if they're looking at him as the extra bowler, we probably don't need that anymore.
In a game,
and a shortened game,
like Nottingham, even if it was a full game under the similar conditions, I think they'd, we were discussing yesterday, I think they'd replace Kuldeep with Shami, and there'll be 3 fast bowlers, and then you have Chahal, your spinner, and then you have Kedar Jadhav, number 5. You have enough bowlers there to do the job.
Yeah, let's have a look at what.
And Hardik Pandya. Oh my God!
So we've already got
4 fast bowlers.
Jasprit Bumrah, Yuzvendra Chahal. If Kuldeep Yadav, for example, gets replaced by Mohammad Shami, that's 5 specialist bowlers there, plus Hardik Pandya, plus Kedar Jadhav. In which case, if you're talking about having an extra person,
wait a minute, 4 specialist bowlers plus Hardik and Kedar.
Yes, 4 plus Hardik and Kedar. That's 6. So you don't necessarily need to look at Vijay Shankar, the bowler. You purely have to toss up between who do we feel is a better number 4/5.
Yeah, I call it the sunk cost fallacy. See, the fallacy is, if today Shikhar Dhawan was there, would you have considered Vijay Shankar for his bowling? You wouldn't, right? No. You would have just gone with Rahul.
I don't think so.
So why are you now bringing bowling into the question when the problem you had to solve is basically replacing Shikhar Dhawan?
Yeah.
You are now looking at, say, wo mujhe ye bhi deta hai, this can also do this. The fact of the matter is, the only problem you are trying to solve is Shikhar Dhawan is not there. How do I replace him? If you restrict yourself to that problem, then you are only going to choose the best batsman. You are not going to decide on whether he bowls or doesn't bowl.
Yeah. Now that depends on Virat Kohli's perception as to if he believes who the better batsman is between the two of them.
Yeah.
And that should be a choice that he makes. So ideally, number 4 again is a very important position, and I think it would be ideal to send MS at number 4 simply because it gives him a little bit more time to get in. Because once he gets in, everyone in the world knows how dangerous he can be. And number 4 gives him that opportunity to get in a little bit.
Well, I think it's time to head back center stage and get a perspective from someone who certainly will be enjoying the Nottingham weather a lot more than Harsha Bhogle. So, Simon Dool is also trying to talk about the New Zealand team and whether they'll enjoy the conditions much more than Team India. This is Simon Dool, center stage.
Well, it's been a good start for New Zealand, absolutely. This weather's played its part. It's cold. It's like Dunedin. Everybody goes to Dunedin and complains. New Zealanders will love it. Seaming conditions as well, they've found in a couple of their early games. So I think these sorts of conditions, if the game goes underway, will suit New Zealand, that is for sure. But India have got perfectly good seamers as well. As far as this tournament's concerned, is it New Zealand playing in the Asia Cup? Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, now India? I don't know what's going on here.
I want to take a screenshot of that and keep it. Here I was. To be honest, we did expect Harsha to be in that. I hadn't actually seen Simon Dool when he was coming centre stage or coming to us from centre stage, but that I did not expect. I've met him in Dunedin when it's been at its worst and windiest, and he's walking around there in one of those tight t-shirts going, "You guys feeling cold? Really?" What was Simon Dool doing there? Whose jacket was that? He doesn't own one.
I think he's just trying to, he's pulling a fast one on you guys. I mean, he doesn't feel the cold. And my only regret was it wasn't a full frame because like your ties, Simon Dool's shoes.
Shorts. Oh, I thought you were talking about his shorts as well. Yeah, his shoes and shorts.
Yeah, there are sight worth seeing. So we're missing out on that. But a nice dig about the Asia Cup in the end. You know, they're playing all the Asian nations. New Zealand is playing in the beginning. But it's an interesting one. I mean, the way he's put it, he's right. I mean, they will fancy their conditions, but it's not as if Mohammad Shami does not enjoy bowling in these conditions.
We'll talk about Shami, but let's have a look at the reason why Dooley was taking that little dig about playing the Asia Cup. You could call it the Australasia Cup, then of course New Zealand would get in there. But have a look at that. Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, India. And then, of course, finally, South Africa turns up on the 19th of June, which is 3 weeks into the tournament. They play their first non-Asian team.
Wow, yeah, it's a big one.
You can't blame us Asians to being so good at cricket. Huh?
Yes, certainly is. But yeah, we briefly touched upon it because Mohammad Shami could be a discussion point again. If you're looking at the conditions, you may not want to go with both your wrist spinners. Certainly, Chehal's been the senior pro as far as the tour concerns. So Kuldeep Yadav may be making way for Mohammad Shami, and I think you'd agree with that selection.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be the right way to go if they're going based on conditions. And I think with the overhead conditions, with the way the weather has been, it would be ideal to play Shami because he's a destructive bowler, and you know it's unfortunate in his perception to be missing out because he's in great form as well, right? So you wanna be able to give him an opportunity when the conditions allow you to, and I think in this case it allows you to give him an opportunity, and I think he should play.
Yeah, and he's hardworking. Every time we've talked to Zahir Khan about Mohammad Shami, he's such a hard worker. He keeps coming back. Yes, he had that injuries early on, but every time he comes back, he's just somebody who tries. I'm not, in mathematics terms, you don't want to say 120%. Stick to 100%, but that's what he gives you.
No, that, and don't forget, he was our lead bowler in the 2015 World Cup. He was the lead bowler out there, and I think Umesh and the others were his support bowlers. He was our biggest wicket taker in that tournament. He just played in New Zealand, played very well in New Zealand. So this is a guy in form. This is a guy who'd love these conditions. And I wouldn't be surprised if he were to take the new ball ahead of one of the others as well. I mean, they might just hold Bumrah back and say, you know, give the new ball to Bovey and Shami and say, bring Bumrah back for a spell, or see 3-4 overs on each side and get Bumrah then as a sort of shock weapon. So because that, he gives you that flexibility. He's good enough to take that new ball and do stuff with it.
Yeah, and already we know with what's happening there, we were expecting a 3 p.m. Indian time inspection. That's been further pushed back because there's been a bit of a drizzle. So as expected in Nottingham, before 3 p.m. it's going to be rain on and off. So further curtailed is what we can already expect. So already you're thinking New Zealand may be enjoying it, maybe that 1 point looming.
Well, I don't think either teams would mind, right? Because I think, I don't think, as in, if India get a point from this, then they go to number 3, and New Zealand stay at number 1. So, you know, I just think it really doesn't make a difference in that sense. But I'm pretty certain that both teams would want to play, get out there and play, because it's the World Cup. Why wouldn't you want to play?
Right. Things we love doing when it's raining. One of them is toast on some tea and trivia. So this time it's going to be no tea yet. We've got some coffee here in the studio, but some trivia, and I suspect this one's going to be a good one, Joy.
It's a good one. Today is a good one. I really enjoyed setting it, and it's very specific to the day on which this match is being played. So the first did it for a county whose home ground is a scene of action today. The second will be in one of the dressing rooms today. The third dropped an important World Cup catch on this day. Who is the fourth?
Wow.
What? I don't even understand.
Wait, hang on, one more time. Go ahead.
So there are 4 people I'm talking about who've obviously done something. The first did it for a county whose home ground is the scene of action today. The second will be in one of the dressing rooms today. I'm not telling you whether he's playing or his staff. The third dropped an important catch on this very day. Who's the fourth?
Yes, I'm getting.
I think
something.
you know this, Gautam.
Yes, I'm getting a hint of it because when I saw the county and then the dressing rooms and the way you put that reference in, that's all I'm saying. I'm giving no more. And the beauty of a question like this, you can try typing all these questions into a search engine, and there are many, so you won't mention a particular one. It will not throw up anything. So you've got to use your nut, and you've got to get that cup of tea and take your time on this one. All right, so for now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a little twist to our My 11 Circle expert couch prediction, right? Because at this stage, we're not really going to get into numbers. If the game does start, maybe we'll revise it and talk about a total. But for now, let's get to how many overs will we get of cricket today. You could say 0, total overs for both sides.
Total overs?
Yeah, total overs. So if it's a 35 over a side game, that's 70. If it's
I think we'll get half a day of cricket. We'll get 50 days of cricket. 50 overs of cricket. 50
still in
overs.
test match mode, 50 days of cricket. 50 overs. All right.
He's saying 50, I'll say 45.
So that's a total.
Yeah, total 45.
45.
45, 46
Yeah.
overs, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to see very, very basic, if at all, but which means what happens at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm going to go with the basic 40. Basic 40. I was going to say 0, but then I'm going to get lambasted for being a pessimist that we're going to get nothing out of it. So I'm going to stick to the very bare minimum. There will be some possibility in that little gap to squeeze in 20 overs aside, especially after 3 o'clock if it starts clearing. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Time to get some more tea, coffee, whatever it is that chooses our fancy. And all of you, hashtag Cricbuzz Live for that joy factor question. It's a good one, and it's something for you to try and pull out of your memory banks. All right, that's all we have on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We'll bring you all the updates as and when the toss happens and how many overs we're going to play.